You got to always start off with the positive, right? You got to set your mindset right, and you got to look at it the good way. We made it to Friday. We got a weekend on our hands. It's right over there. You can see it. You can smell it. We're so close. That's great news. We're going to talk about what else is going on this weekend. Yes, we're going to talk about the No Kings protest. If you're worried about this at all, I don't think you should be for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's losing a lot of steam already. And the second thing is, who's behind it? They're losing power. Trust me on this one. Got to tell you, though, so bummed out last night as we lost another rock star. We're losing too many rock stars. And I think I've said this before. I was a huge rock fan, huge Kiss fan, huge Ace Frehley fan, as you can tell by the shirt. I didn't see this one coming. We're losing too many rock stars, which is a thing that happens, and it's always sad. That's their lifestyle. But they're not being replaced by new rock stars coming out. They're out there, but they're getting no promotion. No record labels are promoting them, and we need them. It's a massive, if you want to look at it this way, rock and roll is a massive part of our freedom culture, if you want to look at it that way, not just being a fan. And we need it. Because if we don't have it, otherwise you have this asshole that's playing the Super Bowl, and that's all we're left with. So, R.I.P. Ace Frehley. And we also have a story, just to lighten things up at the end of this one. I'm going to test all of our poker face detection skills, because the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, big J.B. Pritzker, who happens to be a billionaire, by the way, so it's not that surprising on this end, he apparently won, get this, $1.4 million in a poker game in Vegas. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a free country. It's his right, and he is a rich guy. But his explanation raises all kinds of red flags, and it's just fun to poke fun at, so we'll see about that. All right, let's get right to it. First of all, welcome to your Friday. Thanks for hanging out with me, as always. More and more of you, I see you. Thanks for following, downloading, sharing, watching the replay, whatever you like to do. Thanks, I appreciate it, as always. And the Wicked Radio live stream is always right here, and whatever platform you like, it's there. First of all, I just got to talk about this, and it's not... At first, I thought, when I talk about this is just going to be a personal interest. Nobody's going to care because I'm a fan. But it's bigger than that, because the amount of outpouring of support from people of all different walks of life, the news coverage it's gotten, not just on entertainment channels, but mainstream news coverage. The news of Ace Frehley, Kiss guitarist, solo artist, passing yesterday at the age of 74. Boy, did that make waves. And I always tell you there's like something positive in dark times. And maybe that's the positive and the takeaway on this, is that guy made such an impact. And if you were a fan, or you love rock and roll, and you love rock stars, and you love that you're not alone. But this hit me out of the middle of nowhere. And it's that thing we go through. I first felt this when we lost Tom Petty a few years ago. What was that, 5 years ago? I can't even remember. It's like when the second generation of rock stars, and I'm Gen X, when we start to lose those ones, man, that hits you hard. And we've always lost them early, right? Always, going back to Buddy Holly and Eddie Cochran and, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, all of them, all the stars, John Lennon, all the stars we lost early. But there was always something else coming up behind them, always somebody else inspired by them. Doesn't it seem like there's a lack of that now? We've always lost rock stars, but where are the new ones? Like, this would have been made a lot better by new rock and roll coming up. But where is it? I said this when they announced Bad Bunny for the Super Bowl. We're left with things like that because record companies and producers and, people who will actually fund artists, they're not supporting rock and roll anymore. And I said this in the intro. I really believe this. I think rock and roll, as a means of entertainment, is a massive part of our culture. It's a massive part of freedom, Western culture, America. It goes hand in hand with it. If we don't have that, if we don't have new rock and roll coming up through the ranks and supported and loved and appreciated, we're really missing something in our country. And it goes beyond that. So, I hope to God we have more of it. But this one hit me out of the middle of nowhere yesterday. Because if you're a fan, you had known this a couple of weeks ago. They said that Ace Frehley had a fall at his house. But the joke with Kiss fans was he was always falling down on stage. Just always has been. He's always been kind of a mess anyway. Plus always kind of tipsy, especially when they were wearing platform boots. So that wasn't surprising. But then canceled a bunch of tour dates, and you're kind of concerned. And then yesterday, somebody sent me, as soon as it broke, the TMZ article about him being on life support. And I said, oh, damn it. Because TMZ, whether or not you're even into that or celebrity news, whatever it is, they usually get things right. They usually do. So that looked bad, and he did pass the age of 74 from a brain bleed. We all know Ace Frehley. If you're of my generation, if you're born in late 60s or 1970 older, I posted it on X here a little while ago, teasing what's coming up in the live stream. Everybody, every kid I know had that poster on his wall. And it was just so impactful. And it looked a lot like this. We know him as a player, but there's a lot more. A lot of that goes to how huge Kiss was in their heyday. Massive, massive. The costumes and the TV shows and the cartoons and all that crap, absolutely. But more that what carried them through was the music and him as an inspirational guitarist. And I'll say this, and it sounds like baloney at first, and I'm just being a fanboy here. It really does. But you look at the reaction from people that you like, other bands, other musicians, all different genres. You look at this today and you tell me I'm wrong. Ace Frehley was, that hurts to say now, the most influential guitarist of all time. And I'll stand by that. The most influential guitarist of all time. Not the most technically perfect. No, absolutely not. There's nobody who's ever picked up a guitar that has inspired other people, millions and millions and millions of other kids to pick up a guitar, including me. You can't see it right now, but I have a whole room full of guitars. Nobody has inspired more people. And you can see that proven by the amount of people reaching out and just bummed out about it now. Any current modern day rock artist you know of is bummed out about this, and it said how much he meant to them. Rock, obviously, metal, but all different genres. The most influential of all time. It's not about technical perfection either. You don't have to be a master musician to be able to appreciate that. Even technically perfect guitarists are chiming in saying this guy was just something else because he was so unique and so inspirational. They had battled back and forth, but I read a couple of years ago, Paul Stanley, also of Kiss, his book a couple of years ago, and he had this section I'll never forget talking about Ace Frehley, and he said, why was he so inspirational? And he said, you could sing those solos. He goes, it wasn't technically perfect, but everything he added had this touch, and you can recognize exactly who it is anytime you hear him play. Just a real sad thing. But you want to talk about rock and roll attitude. We always hear this term thrown out erroneously all the time, rock star. That guy's a rock star. Often somebody that's not even, has anything to do with rock. Most of it is attitude and not just playing. Just listen to this for a second. This was a quote from Ace Frehley before that I kind of saved here. And I think this epitomizes everything about rock and roll and why I say it's so important to American Western culture. This is Ace Frehley a couple of years ago. I never set my sights low. I've always believed most people are ruined by the limitations they put on themselves. I was never afraid to take that step, to see what I was capable of doing. Does luck play a role in success, particularly in a creative field? Sure it does. But if you don't have the balls to give it a shot, you're destined to fail. I have a lot of diehard fans. Ace Frehley fans and Kiss fans are the greatest in the world. Ace Frehley, go easy. That's rock and roll. That's what it is right there. And that's why we need it in our culture. And it's such a shame, too, because I remember, was it last month, 2 months ago, I was talking about this, where the Lincoln Center honors are coming up here in December. They're going to honor Kiss, including Ace and all the past members, and he's not going to be there. It's going to be posthumous, and just such a shame. They sent out a nice dedication to him, but man. But I'll say it again. You prove me I'm wrong. The most influential guitarist of all time. And you're going to hear that at first and go, oh, that's ridiculous. There have been better. Wait a minute. You know what? Everybody knows Ace Frehley. We need more rock stars. Support them. All right. What else is going on this weekend? Are you ready? What do you do for it? What do you do for the No Kings rally? Do you buy a costume? Is there, where do you stop by and pick up your prepaid for, pre-printed out protest poster? It's coming. Major cities throughout the land tomorrow. It's the No Kings Rally 2.0. They had the first one, and that was something. It was the same old protesters you see at these rallies these days now, and I want you to look out for a couple of different things. If this concerns you, and I think less and less people are concerned, I wouldn't worry about it for a couple of different reasons. It's disturbing who's behind it, sure, but I wouldn't worry about the impact of this thing, to be completely honest with you. And I may be wrong. We may be coming in here on Monday morning talking about the No Kings 2.0 rally, and it changed the course of history, and it was amazing, and it was impactful, and maybe. but I really doubt it. First piece of information to back that up is this. So I looked at Google Trends, and as of last night anyway, I didn't check it this morning, but as of last night, search for No Kings protest, No Kings rally, No Kings anything on Google Trends, which is usually pretty reliable of what people are talking about and chattering about. It's down as of last night close to 45%. That's one thing. Okay, all right. But have you noticed this too? Remember the first one, and you heard all the celebrities, A-list celebrities as they like to call themselves, promoting this thing, and they were showing up for it, and they were telling you to get there. Have you noticed something this time around, that there's less quote-unquote celebrities urging you to go to a No Kings protest rally organization, whatever the hell it is? There's less of them. And also, they're going to the bench. In other words, they're going to the B-listers, or people you haven't seen in a while. Not just celebrities or actors or singers, politicians too. Here's the first one. You remember this guy? Remember this Obama official? Robert Reich. Rush used to call him Robert Reichshaw. He has a little video message for you, pun intended.
Millions of people protested Trump's authoritarian agenda on No King's Day in June. On October 18th, I urge you to hit the streets again for No King's Day 2.0. No Kings. Now,
okay, I haven't heard from that little fella in a long time, but he's out there now, and he used to be. They had the A-listers from the political side, from the swamp monsters. You know, the top-notch swamp monsters were out for the last time. Now they got guys like this. I thought that was interesting. And from the celebrity circuit, you know, it's not Julia Roberts or George Clooney anymore. Here's Jeannie Smart, who I always kind of liked, but she's a loon too. But this level kind of actress is promoting No Kings now this time around.
Hi. I urge everyone to try to find a No Kings protest in their community, a peaceful protest, and join on October 18th. The current resident of the White House seems to think that he has everybody fooled, but he has made it abundantly clear that he admires dictators and wishes to be one.
Well, that's high energy, isn't it? Hi. I'd like you to, interesting wording too, I'd like you to try to find a protest. All right, interesting enough. And we all know the joke. We've all said it now for months. It's the most obvious thing in the world. It's the most obvious line, but I'll say it again because it still works and it's still relevant. And you can use it for your friends at work that are going to this thing or support it. You know, you're at your computer typing away and you hear them chattering about it. Oh yeah, I'm going to go. You know, if the guy really was a king, you wouldn't be able to have a No Kings protest. And you just go back to typing away at work or whatever, you know. There's that. But there's something else you can fight against on this, if you care to even get involved. My advice, honestly, is to let this thing blow by because I think it's going to be low energy. I think it's going to be paid protesters, mostly old white libs for the most part. I don't think it's going to be impactful. But who knows? But here's something really interesting. Actually, you should pay attention to on this. So you got B-list celebrities, B-list swamp monster politicians promoting it this time. It's a bad sign for them and the turnout. You know, but who knows? Google Trends are down for it. But this got revealed. So this is a post. This is from the New York City event of No Kings 2.0 coming up tomorrow on Saturday. Now I'm gonna play this for you. And I'm sorry, audio only listeners. This is a visual. I'm gonna bring up a still shot for you and talk over it. Now there's a bunch of different sponsors, and they're calling themselves sponsors on this for this, and they're all the typical. Let me just read from you. The LLP, the NYPNU, local, a lot of unions, by the way, Climate Defenders, Common Cause, Freedom Socialist Party. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, also Third Act, New York City, whatever the hell they are. New York Communities Change, New York Progressive Action Network. All right, typical things you would expect. Whatever, that's fine. And again, if you're audio only, I will just describe this, but for you visual listeners, you got to look at this. I'm going to bring up this poster right now because I zoomed in on all of these sponsors. They call themselves sponsors, these organizations of the No Kings, at least in New York. I'm going to zoom in on what this one sponsor is in their logo, which is right in there that I didn't mention yet. Right there, if you can see it, next to something called Fun and the People's Forum. The red one with the hammer and the sickle and the hammer around it is CPUSA. CPUSA, front and center, as an admitted sponsor of the No Kings Rally, at least in New York. Had to look it up because people were telling me this was there, and yes, that is the Communist Party of America. CPUSA, that's their logo. They're out there on their online socially saying they're going to be part of this thing, and they're there, which is fascinating to me. Not surprising, just fascinating that they're so outward about it. Now, you've got in the same city, you've got a guy last night that was on the debate stage, an avowed communist. Some would call him a jihadist, Mamdani, who's going to win that election. So you've got that guy not hiding his fact that, where his political leanings are at all. It used to be a bad word. It used to be like, yeah, I'm a communist, but I don't want to tell anybody. It used to be hidden. Now they're loud and proud. Now they're putting their logo on posters where they used to hide in the background before and just used to funnel money towards this kind of thing and organize it with their organizational skills. Now they're on posters for this. Confirmed. CPUSA, Communist Party of the USA, as part of the No Kings Rally. I'm sure throughout the country, but at least we know for sure. We have facts now in New York City. So you're putting together a protest that says no kings, but yes, communists? Isn't that fascinating? So if you want to, again, this is complete personal choice. I would just ignore it, let it blow by, and let it die out because it's already losing energy. But if you wanted to actually have an argument with somebody about this and say, no kings, because no one should be a king, just say that. Well, you don't want kings, but you're in favor of communists because the Communist Party of America is sponsoring this thing. They're a sponsor. And someone's going to say, no, that's not true. This is about freedom and America. And, oh, okay, well, just so you know, you can look it up yourself. If you want to engage in that. Me, I just let it blow by. I think this thing's going to go away. I think what you're going to see here is the same paid protesters. And one of the telltale signs of that is pre-made signs, like we saw at the first one, pre-printed out, and they hand them out on the way out. If you dig a little deeper, people who look into this thing find the same cell phone tracker check-ins at the same protests throughout the country. They actually can tell that they're the same people that go to all the protests. They're usually a sign that they're paid. And sometimes you see the same exact protesters at all these things, which means they're paid, and it's all phony and not as big as you think it is. But that's one thing. It's what it is. But to take the energy out of this thing, they're already taking the energy out of it themselves. I'd let it blow by, but that's just me. Who knows? And again, I may be wrong. On Monday, we may come in here and I was like, oh, that was like, oh boy, they're taking over. That was the biggest protest of all time. But I don't think so. Who knows? Before we go into the weekend, let's laugh at one more thing. It's been some tough news. Let's laugh at this. So J.B. Pritzger, speaking of no kings, he's one of the organizers in Chicago of this thing. He's the guy, the mayor, the governor of Illinois, who's fighting federal troops going into Chicago. There's no crime here. There's no problem at all. Trump being an authoritarian. He's absolutely useless. But J.B. Pritzker is also a billionaire. Happens to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, the story broke coming out of Illinois that he was pretty recently, in Vegas. Nothing wrong with that. And he was at a poker tournament, charity, he says, and he won $1.4 million. Again, no problem whatsoever on that. In fact, I didn't even think anything of it until I saw his explanation of this because, they kept on hammering him with the questions. It's like, Governor, how did you manage to win $1.4 million? Here's his explanation. Now, I don't know much about, I like playing cards, but the most I've ever won is like a couple $100. I like blackjack. That's about it. But this seems to me, and I didn't think anything of it or raise a red flag until I saw his explanation. This seems to me to be the worst poker face and explanation of all time.
Obviously,
but you be the judge.
And I've explained this, or at least we did in a statement, that I went on vacation with my wife, with some friends. I was incredibly lucky. You have to be to end up ahead, frankly, going to a casino anywhere. It was in Las Vegas, and I like to play cards, and so that I founded a charitable poker match here in Chicago called the Chicago Poker Challenge that has raised millions of dollars for the Holocaust Museum here. And particularly to stand up for civil rights. That's much of what the Holocaust Museum does. And so, anyway, that's all I can say about it. I mean, I had fun doing it. I encourage people to come to the state of Illinois and gamble in our casino.
Now, I like that part of it where he actually says, because they have certain casinos, a lot of states have this, where you can gamble. I like that he turned that around and he turned it into, but, listen, I encourage people to come to the state of Illinois and come to our illegal casinos here and gamble all you want. You can win like I did. Here's the thing. First of all, the highest stakes at a Vegas casino, I did some research, as you can imagine. This is just grok, but I thought it was fun because that seems like an awful lot amount of money. That would be like record setting to win that at a poker tournament anywhere. Let's go to Vegas, for example. The highest stakes in Vegas at Caesars, where they allow a max of $50,000 per hand. That's like the tops, unless it's some sort of a private deal where they bring in the whales. Like him. Sorry. According to Grok, again, you need to have a starting stack of $10 million to play a minimum 200 hours to win $1.5 million. And again, he won $1.4 million. There's a lot of stuff that's not adding up on this. Again, I didn't think of anything of it until his explanation, because if you saw the video there, he's kind of like, he's got that sheepish grin and he's looking down and it looks like liar face to me. I don't know. I'm not a body language expert, but he seems like he's full of crap, and it wouldn't surprise me. Something fishy going on there. But sometimes you explain too much, and that's an example of that, guys. So you're going to have to make up your own mind. I don't know. Just something to laugh at. All right. Sad day if you're into freedom and rock and roll and all that stuff, as we lost Ace Frehley. But again, I'll say it again, and I think this is a call to action. I seriously mean this. Rock and roll and freedom and that attitude is a massive part of Western culture and freedom, and we need it, and we're losing it. We've always lost rock stars, always. Young ages, too. Ace was 74, and that's sad, but still. Where are the new rock stars? Where are they? When you see them, when you hear them, when you find a new band, promote it. You find a new band in your local city at a club, support them. Because we need rock and roll in our culture, and we need rock stars. Otherwise, you know what we're left with? That asshole who's playing the Super Bowl coming up. Nobody wants that. Bring the rock, because rock will never die. But they're not getting promoted by any labels. They're really not, or promoters. So it's going to be up to you and me to find the new rock stars, because they're out there somewhere. They're just not getting any love. And the No Kings protest, I wouldn't worry about it. Let the energy draw out of that thing on its own. They're killing it they're killing it themselves. There's no energy to this thing. So who knows? Most important thing, have a great, safe, free weekend. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy your time. Enjoy your family. Enjoy your life, because it's fleeting. Thanks for hanging out with me, as always. All channels, audio podcast listeners too, press subscribe. On Spotify, it's follow. And you Facebook people have been following more and more. I appreciate you as well. But more importantly, make it a wicked awesome weekend. I'll talk to you later.